Hey guys, welcome to week 3 of our survival videos on YouTube. I'm Andrew, I'm the camp director here at Camp Ara.
I'm Jen Curtis, his wife. I'm the marketing and communications director. I can communicate well, I promise.
Better than that.
Sometimes.
Hey guys, we're so glad that you have come back. We're anxious to share these videos. So if you've watched them, there's been about anywhere around 30 of us that have been watching these. Hopefully they're all not just us.
The same 5 people.
So if you would share it. But the first week we went over 2 of our 7 skills that we're covering, and they were STOP, which stands for
Stop, think, observe, and plan.
Man, you've nailed this down. Yeah, and then also first aid, and we covered all that. So check out our first video to go over the recap. I'm not going to do all that right now. The next week we actually went into shelter because the average person can be exposed to the elements for about 3 hours. And this carries on to the 3s that we're going to talk about. But we built a debris hut shelter with really minimal supplies. It was just kind of an example to just show how much work it really is to build one of those. Now we started at about 2 or so.
3:30. We ended about 3:30.
And it took about an hour. And it is not, some of you guys commented, part of the point is we were hoping to get some more conversation on the video. For one, just to say, hey, how much work was it? How many people could fit in there? And really, what is the structural integrity of that thing? And really,
it's still standing.
It is still standing. We would be over there right now, but we got some counterparts hunting over there, so we're going to be kind to them and stay away. However, it did have a roof structure. One of the comments, in fact, one person that did comment asked about for rain and stuff, and that's really important. Is that
being helped or actually having some protection from the elements is kind of the point, right?
Yeah, and since it was just, again, these shelters are meant for just an overnight, and you might not have a tarp. Today we're going to show you a tarp real quick before we dive into fire starting.
Yeah. Well, and again, that hut, when we built it, we didn't spend as long as we would have if we'd actually been staying in it. And what you really couldn't see very well was the real, deeper on the inside, because it did go in a little deeper in. So it did have some good coverage.
And one of the things that it did have is that natural rock pile that today, when we're building a fire, we would build right in front of that, and it would help reflect that heat in. If it wasn't a strong storm that was coming in, that would be a very comfortable shelter. Now we're going to show you a quick tarp shelter. It's going to be open on the sides. However, you can do tarp shelters where you close them in. In fact, you can see a lot of YouTube videos where you can do some say 10 types of tarp shelters. You can Google them and check them out. But we're just going to do one real quick just to kind of show really the difference in effort in the shelter, and then we're going to dive in today's skill, which is actually fire building.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
Hang on, here we go. All right, so we got our little tarp. We were teaching some knots, which we have classes to teach knots, but we were just spending time together because this is good quality time for Jen and I as well. So we got the ridge line up, we put pegs in. It allows us to adjust. Now this tarp does fit in the can with everything else. There's a lot more recent new tarps out there that have lots of little eyes and loops and attachments that you can thread things and pull different directions. This thing is probably older than I am. It has a cool feature of the bright red and the foil on the inside, like emergency blanket style. It isn't emergency blanket. It's thick like a tarp. So it'll provide the shelter for us. And it also, as we build our fire, will help reflect that heat in for us. Now we could spend time, we did pile all the leaves because we're gonna build a fire. We just put them inside here to add some insulation, but that's all we're gonna really talk on shelter, but we'd love the comments and the conversation. So diving into fire, some of the reasons that we need fire, what can you think of?
I'm going with warmth.
Yeah, warmth, especially since we're doing our survival weekend in December. It's gonna be chilly. And
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah, both of them. And also cooking, light.
Deterrent for animals.
Deterrent for animals, and then probably we're going to get into, now we're not there yet, we'll talk about a little bit later on, but the difference between purifying, yeah, and what else have you heard as far as purifying?
I mean, there's the iodine tablets, water, or boiling. I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, so like to disinfect, or to, so a purify would like remove everything out. And then we're just gonna, because so essentially when we boil water, it doesn't take all the sediment out.
No, it just kills everything to make it safe.
Yeah, so it's probably gonna still taste horrible, right? Now there's some other things in there that you can buy, some of those hand filter, the life straws. There is differences between the purification and not. So we're not gonna dive into that right now, but boiling water is another way that we're gonna have for drinking. And again, it's 3 hours in the elements that are exposed to the elements. Now, if it's a nice day, we don't really have to build a shelter. You really just got to kind of plan on what you're doing. So it's going to be cold. We got something that can provide a little bit of shelter, keep the warmth in. And then as we build this fire, there's going to be some different things that we can do. And there's some absolute, I need to get my train of thought because I got distracted with all the shelter thing. All right, we're just going to dive into fire. All right, so we're gonna dive right into fire, guys. And some of the things that we brought, we always talk about some of the things we have. A couple things are actually in here for this time. Now, we already had the multi-tool that Jen had brought last time. And in fact, on this multi-tool, all right, as we open it up, it's got some extra features here. It has a flint rod on here that we can strike with the back of the knife, or it has a striker. Now, I want to keep in mind that as you get any kind of new flint rod, it's going to have this black coating on, and somebody might sit here and be like, hey, nothing's happening. You actually got to scrape that coating off before it does anything. So you might have one on here already, depending on what your knife is. Put that back on there. However, I've got a longer one, and it's got like a magnesium surround to it. I'm not a big fan of magnesium blocks, but this long striker provides a lot more control for what we're doing, and that's why I chose this one. It's been used a bunch, so you can see that it's all scraped off. So you can do a couple different things. We want to be able to have a hard, flat surface. The ground is actually wet. She can attest to that, or
my knees can anyway.
Yeah, we're going to be wet as we get up. So a lot of times as you're finding sticks and everything else, you want to make sure you try to grab dry. The big thing with starting fires is not to get antsy and just come in and dive in and just start scraping steel and getting a leaf together if you don't have anything to start burning.
Right.
And with that, we have over here some piles. You want to grab some of those piles, Jen?
So
We're just going to grab, we're actually going to build 2 fires. I'm going to let Jen do a fire too. So there's 3 different types of wood categories for building a fire. Do you remember what those are?
we've got tinder, kindling, and your actual wood, your
fuel.
Fuel,
Yep,
yeah.
fuel, yep. All right, so for today's purposes, we don't have any large logs, which would be the fuel. We have tinder, we have kindling. Now, there's a lot of other things that could be tinder. If you're wearing out in the wilderness, you're wearing jeans, pants, socks, you can
pull
get
those pockets out.
Yeah, pull those pockets out. You get lint off that. Take the
Your
fuzzies
socks
off
inside
the socks.
out, yeah,
Yep.
and this inside your socks.
Keep in mind though, if it's cotton, if you got polyester clothes, it's not going to burn really well. It's just
Right.
going to melt and stick to you and not be
Not
fun.
smell good.
Yeah. So we got our tinder piles. We got our kindling. Now we absolutely could get some leaves here. However, most of these are really just waterlogged
They're
and
wet.
soaked,
Yeah.
and that's going to smoke you out. And with that said, there's a fire triangle, and there's 3 things that the fire needs. Do you remember those?
Fuel, oxygen, and I always forget the third one.
a heat source.
the source,
Yeah, the
yeah.
heat source. Yep. So
The
without
igniter, the starter, right? Is kind of what that
we
is.
could use a lot of different things.
Yeah.
So the fuel is something that's going to burn. A lot of things will burn, even things you might not intend. So as you're doing this, you want to be careful of loose clothing, that you're not leaning over the fire. Or if you got a really fuzzy hat and you're down there blowing on it, you probably don't want to have that hat there. So fuel and then air. Which we're going to kind of talk about feeding, but it needs to be, don't smother the fire. That's what a lot of people do. And if you take a bunch of wet leaves
on it.
with all this dirt and everything else, if I were to try to light this, I might get some embers in here, but it's just not going to light up. All right, snap, we're back. So we're talking about smothering leaves. If you notice, Jen's hands got cold, so she put her gloves on, which is absolutely fine if you're on a retreat. Do everything you can to stay warm. And again, if you get to where you're really far behind the power curve, you're going to start rushing and you're going to get really frustrated.
Sloppy. Yeah.
It's sloppy. You're not going to be prepared, unsafe, and probably unsuccessful. So the main thing here is just to stay calm. And if you got somebody with you, like, just tell jokes, keep it motivated. It's obviously getting dark. This is where people are going to get frantic. Kids might be panicking a little bit. But ultimately, again, we don't have to have fire. Especially if there's a couple of you guys can use body heat. We can do a better shelter of keep inside in. We would be all right, especially just overnight. But we're going to get this fire started. So we want to get off the ground. We got the leaves all cleared out. We had a flat rock that we had found down by the creek. Or
by the what?
By the creek.
What was that? How do you spell that?
It's definitely C-R-I-C-K. All right, enough of that nonsense. All right, so I wanted to kind of talk about something else. These medicine bottles, there's a lot of, people see these, they get panicked. However, for camping and survival, these are awesome. They keep stuff, they come in all different sizes, and it's going to keep stuff safe. It's not going to accidentally open up on you. I know I used to, a long time ago, use the old film cases where they flip up, but the caps, if they were squished in, they would pop off. These things work awesome, so for lots of different things. So for fire starting, you could have matches and put matches in. It would keep them safe. Put a striker in there.
But not if you're coming to our retreat.
Not if you're coming to our retreat. So we actually got a little trick in here. It's a very common one. I'm sure you've seen it before. If not, I'm not going to pull this one. I'm actually going to show you how to make it. So I didn't put the extras are in the can, but we're not going to take them.
The demonstration here is the Vaseline, which is what he's about to show you, with the cotton ball. It preserves it really well. It doesn't get a lot of gunk on it, anything you don't want on it, and it keeps the Vaseline off of everything else.
Yep. So we can keep them in there. So I already have one made in there, but I'm just going to show you. It's really just, you go and get some cheap, petroleum jelly, Vaseline, really the basic. You don't want any of the fancy stuff. You just stick the cotton ball in, you roll it around a few times. You can open it up. It really, and I'm going to show you the difference here once we get it lit, of a Vaseline soaked one and a not. So I'm going to let Jen have one out that does not have Vaseline. Actually, she's going to do one because she's going to make a fire too. We're going to show that
the gloves are going to catch on fire.
That the gloves are going to catch fire. All right. So some other things while she's doing that. Paraffin wax. If you go and you can feather a stick, and what I mean by feather is you just take a stick. You're going to whittle, but you're not going to actually shave it all off. So you're exposing the underneath of the wood, and it's going to leave little feathering like this, and you're going to group it up all at the bottom. Now, you could do this out in the woods, and it's going to open up, so all the wet on the outside, it'll expose the drier wood, not to mention it'll give more surface area to light, and a lot thinner, more of the tinder style. It will light good. Also, if you pre-make one of these, dip it in a thing of paraffin wax, it's going to do something very similar.
But it'll stay lit a lot longer.
Yeah, and the other thing that we do is we actually do it for our cabins now is we get cookie tins or cupcake tins, not quite as big as cupcake, but we get some old, anything that we would make a tinder bottle with. So like if you had cedar bark and you pull out the inside, you shred it, anything that's really dry and extremely flammable, you want it to be dry already. You pack those cans and then you pour paraffin in it. Let it cool, and then we cut them in half, and one of those will start a log on fire all by itself.
And burn for a good 10 minutes. They're great.
Yep. Another thing you could do is steel wool on a 9-volt battery. So if you already had a flashlight on you that took 9-volt batteries, and you had...
Do they still make those?
They do. We got a few. And you just had some steel wool in here. Just by shorting out the battery, it's going to give some embers. Magnesium blocks is another thing. We could do a bow staff where we had, and that's another where you have a palm handle, you got the stick. We could use some paracord. and we're gonna do it by friction. I've actually been with a guy that did it by hand. It's insane. Really, it just comes down to your preference. And again, it's not just about the fanciest tool, it's what you're comfortable with.
For you.
Yeah, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna make 2 sets of fires. So prior to lighting these, we're just gonna set up and get ready for the fire button, or for the
fire itself.
The fire itself.
When we can light it.
Yep. So we're just gonna make 3 piles. We're gonna just divide it out here. Again, if you think you have enough, get more. That's a good key. And you would build this essentially if you had any kind of breeze or winds. We don't today. You would make it to where this is blocking that. And then I'm gonna have a 3rd pile that is ready to go right in front of it that I'm gonna grab. So essentially what we're gonna do is we're gonna put our cotton, once it gets going, down in here, and I'm just gonna use my knife because the Vaseline will stick to you. So once we get it going, we're gonna pick it up and I'm gonna put it in there. Now, the other thing we're gonna show is we're gonna get a regular cotton ball. I'm gonna light it and I'm gonna sit it here so you can see the difference in the flame of what the Vaseline does. All right, so as I'm doing this, the big thing, I don't wanna smother, but I wanna have something that's gonna catch. You're gonna see how long this goes. As I come down here, I'm gonna use the back of my knife. I don't wanna damage the blade. You don't typically carry a whetstone with you or anything to sharpen, so we wanna protect this, keep it out of the dirt as much as possible. And then we're just gonna use the back of it and then get on the actual striker.
Right
All right, so there we go. So then I'm just gonna take this, I'm gonna set it in there. All right, and then I'm gonna let Jen do the same. And I'm taking this 3rd pile and I'm just gonna kind of easily put, and very carefully, put on the sticks on top.
Ah, I'm on the striker side, right? Right here?
Yeah, yep, that's it right there. Real close to the handles where you wanna do. And I will tell you, almost all of this wood is wet after being at the heavy rains that we've gotten. So we're gonna see if we're both successful or not.
Get mine to light.
All right, so the big thing right here. So as you hold it, you want to actually hold towards.
I was doing this, not this.
You want it towards, and as you do it, give it a little flick at the end. Yep, and you're actually flicking that. Yep, right at the. And it's not fast. A lot of people think you got to go fast. It's just nice and solid strokes. And once you get that lit, we're gonna hold for a second. I'm gonna. Hopefully you guys can see this and the camera's showing. Get her down closer.
More Vaseline on it?
No, you're good. Let's see it.
Why don't you do it for me?
You're good. You got to get right down in there. You can put it, you can rest it on the end. And again, this is really, I'm glad we're doing this because it shows that if you don't practice this, it's not as easy as some people make it look.
Some people?
I mean, I am not the best at this by any means. I've seen some people that can really start some fires. I'm hoping some of them come to our retreat. I'd love to learn some new techniques.
What am I doing wrong?
So here, let me show you. I'm not going to actually light your thing here. All right, so as you do it, you're going to use this hard flat spot and then just nice, firm, pushing down.
I feel like that's what I was doing. All right.
But don't be afraid to, you're not going to hurt it. There you go. See, you follow through with it. Yep. There you go. Oh, almost.
No, it caught the right behind it. 5 minutes later, Jen's still trying to light her Q-tip. Or cotton ball.
There you go.
Hey!
All right, so she's going to go ahead and get hers going, but I'm going to light this right here, and I'm going to set it next to. You can see that that flame is still going. She doesn't really have any sticks going on. This one's about to burn out. Go ahead and get your top layer on. Your top layer of small sticks, colorfully, a couple at a time there.
Yep.
Kind of sideways making the A. You can see the large flame that that's creating. This one's almost about dead, so it's really important that that little extra step of Vaseline. Also, if you were to blow on this, it's going to go out. Whereas you can see that Vaseline, that petroleum is going to keep that fire going. So it's really important not just to bring cotton. And this is the difference between grabbing lint. Now, the lint out of your pockets, the papers, or the leaves that you get, they will burn. It's just as far as holding the flame, it's going to be a lot more difficult. So you can see here we got a fire. There's lots of different kinds. In fact, during our retreat, we're going to show some different styles of fires to make. We're also going to talk about a Dakota hole fire, which, again, if you're not, go ahead and check those out on Google, YouTube. Practice those at home prior to coming out to our retreat. So with this, if we had more stones, we could do it. We got to be careful with the wood material. However, if it's wet, if we had larger wood, we could position some wood here to help reflect the heat. And then we want to just have the stuff before it gets too dark already prepared to go, like we have right here. You don't want to be out walking around. Not to mention that's more calories we're burning. And if we start sweating,
it's hard to get warm.
It's going to be, and that's going to make it really worse. As far as your clothes are damp, and then once you stop moving, everything's just going to get cold really quick, and hypothermia could set in really fast. So we both got fires going with our striker and cotton balls with Vaseline. Now there's a lot of other techniques, guys. Just like the shelters, this is just to show one of what we would put in our tin can. And we want to hear your ideas. We want to hear what you guys think about these, maybe what you've done in the past. Maybe you've used different types of flint and steel. Jen's getting smoked out. Now, again, this is where if we had a larger fire, it's going to put off a lot more heat, even if we didn't have reflection. But what we could also do is we could dig out here, even with this rock. We could dig this in so that way, as it gets closer, we could pull in the coals. We could keep the fire hot out here and fairly high, and then pull the coals into us with the stone to get it closer to provide that heat that's going to reflect off this tarp. So that's pretty much it for fire building, what we have. It is dark. We did it just in time. Now next week, now we've done stop, we've done first aid, we've done shelter, we've done fire building. Can you think of what's next? And this is kind of the hint.
So water would be what I thought. So.
Yeah, so and that's a lot of people really jump to food and water quick, but again, do you remember how long without water? So it's 3 hours to the exposure.
So 3 hours to the exposure, 3 days, and then 3 weeks without food.
Yeah, 3 days without water is the average person. Now, it doesn't mean you're not going to be thirsty, and I'm not telling you not to get water.
No, and you're going to experience a lot of symptoms between, or even after the first day.
Right, and as we're still going through all these skills, you still need to apply the first aid and stop at all of these. We're still thinking about that as we go. So Jen's keeping mine going for me while I talk. We're going to put these out. We provide we definitely believe in low impact camping. So we're going to make sure we're not damaging the environment, leaving it better than we have it, and spread all this out, make sure it's out completely. However, signaling.
However, it's nice and warm, and it actually is cold despite what we're wearing right now.
Right. So signaling is the next skill. Yep. So even though we're gonna
bright yellow paracord.
We got bright yellow paracord. We got a bright red tarp. We're not looking to be camouflaged. In the event that other people come by, we want them to see us, especially if they're out looking for us. Maybe if they didn't anticipate, we told somebody we're going to be back. We didn't get back, and then they go ahead and told the authorities and they're out looking for us. So we want to be as visible as possible, but there's some other things in there that we can put in our shelter to have in essentially our day packs on trips as survival skills that I'm going to share with you next week. Now, the retreat's coming up. If you haven't got online, check out our website at awayatara.com and see. Now, we have 2 weeks of survival skill.
We do.
It says second chance, but it could be your first chance too if you can't come the first week.
Well, it can be it's the second chance for you to make it the first time, or your second chance to redeem yourself if you couldn't make it the first time.
Yeah.
Couldn't make it through the night, I mean.
We're going to let you, now, again, we're going to not let you off. We're going to teach you all these skills. At the retreats, we're going to teach you a bunch more. We're going to share some, so others that come with skills, we're going to share those experiences.
Let them demonstrate, absolutely.
And then we'll actually get out here, and we're going to have instructors out in the woods with you. So if you have questions or you get troubles along the way, we're going to help you out. The goal here isn't to tap out and just go and not learn anything from it. So check out our website, check out Facebook. We're really excited. Stay tuned for next week, guys, and really help us with YouTube. We need to get as many followers and likes on YouTube to kind of get our channel going.
So if you wouldn't mind, if you're one of the few that are watching these videos,
One of the two.
hey, we love you. Share this with people. Ask them to watch it all the way through, and then sign into YouTube. I know it's difficult. I don't like doing that either. But in order to like,
You have to like. Yeah, you have to have an account. So,
you have to have an account.
yeah,
So
sign up, like, subscribe, click the bell.
yeah, we would love that, guys. And we love you very much. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining.